ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Championship Sunday Overtime. Broncos and Patriots. Wow. The weather made a mockery of this football game. What had a chance to be an excellent contest turned into a slop fest due to weather that absolutely came out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure, and I know Tony Romo said this multiple times on the broadcast. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a game weather-wise change that drastically from the start of the game to the finish of the game. You couldn't have told me that before this second half got underway. Like, there was no evidence going into halftime that the second half of this game would be played in a blizzard, basically. Unbelievable. And it totally altered how that game was played on both sides. And in the moment, it felt like Sean Payton made the wrong decision. It turned out to be a game-altering decision. We'll get to that in a bit. But the Patriots win 10-7, advance to Super Bowl 60, where they'll take on the winner of Seahawks-Rams. I said this, I think, before the postseason even started. The team that comes out of the NFC, to me, is going to win the Super Bowl. That hasn't changed. Even before the snow became an issue, Drake Maye did not play well. Now, his legs were a massive factor in this game, ultimately clinching the victory with the run on a beautiful boot where he kept it, outraced Ellis, used a gorgeous stiff arm to keep him at bay, get the first down, and pretty much put this game on ice. But he missed a lot of open receivers. He was indecisive, inaccurate, which is not what we've seen from him. He looked nervous. The moment looked big for him. And so I can't imagine what it's going to look like for him in the Super Bowl, but he's very capable. He's very capable. And he made winning plays in the second half of this game, right? So you start with the Patriots side of things. There's really not a lot to talk about with this game because of the weather. Like, literally, we were robbed of an entire championship game, right? For those people who are arguing that NFL games should all participate in domed stadiums, this is a point for you. I'm not one of those people that feel that strongly about it one way or the other. I just hate when games are totally hijacked like this due to weather conditions. This was ridiculous. For New England, you were able to get down there and start, like that second half drive, if we're being honest, that was the game. That start to the second half, and I've said this as many times as I can, and I'm going to continue to say this until my face turns blue. When it comes to winning the toss, Patriots won the toss. They deferred to the second half. I'm always a proponent of getting the ball to start the second half. Look, a lot of people have their various reasons as to why they would do this or do that. My reason is simple. It doesn't change. It doesn't matter what your situation is. I don't care if the team I'm playing against is a tremendous front runner and they haven't won a single game when they've trailed, and so I should get the football first and score and put them behind and see how I don't care about any of that shit. The bottom line for me, I don't care about double dipping or any of that bullshit. The simple reason for me is that I know what the score is at the beginning of the game. I do not know what the score is going to be at halftime, but I do know this. Me having the football to start the second half is always going to benefit me, whether I'm trailing, whether I'm winning, or the game is tied. And in this particular instance, the game was tied at 7. The Patriots possessed the football for what was essentially the last good possession of football that you could actually have it and manufacture offense and run your offense effectively. They ran the football down the field, took up damn near 10 minutes of the third quarter clock Couldn't get in the end zone, but they got the game-winning field goal for all intents and purposes. A 23-yard Andres Bergales field goal to put them up 10-7, which ultimately ended up being the game-winning field goal in the final score. Because they possessed that football. Had that been Denver to start with that football in the second half, maybe we're talking about a Denver 10-7 with victory. Who knows? But that drive was the deciding drive. That, and there were two plays really that decided the outcome of this game. That drive was tremendous for the Patriots, though. And them coming out in the second half, establishing the run game, and Ramondre Stevenson really set the tone for the second half. But the defense forcing Stidham to fumble, which he can't do that in that situation, initially ruled intentional grounding, then rightfully changed to a backwards pass recovered by the Patriots. They ultimately scored the touchdown on that possession to tie the game up. And then obviously that possession that I just referenced for New England were the two scoring possessions. But the biggest play in the game was Sean Payton deciding not to kick the field goal, which would have put them up 10-0. Totally changed the face of this ball game. And Payton was out of his mind for that. And we'll talk about that decision and what it ultimately represented a little bit later on when we get to Denver side of things. But as I mentioned with Drake Maye, the numbers aren't going to tell the story here, and look, the weather was such an important factor in every aspect of this game, including the statistics. You can't look at the box score and just determine who had a good game or not. But I will tell you that before the weather became the dominant storyline in this game, Rio at one point said that the weather said, "I'm the captain of this game now, right? I'm the captain of the ship." They literally took over, and the weather took over. Mother Nature said, I got it from here. Drake Maye wasn't playing well before that, though. He's short on more passes. He was inaccurate on more throws. This is a guy that led the NFL in completion percentage this year at 72%. This is a guy that had been sparkling throwing the football pretty much all season long, putting him squarely in the MVP conversation. And he couldn't complete a pass today. Now, I will tell you that flea flicker pass he threw in that driving snowstorm was a thing of beauty. And that's the Drake Maye we know. That's the Drake Maye we've come to know and love. But how many dig routes did he miss to receivers over the middle of the field open? Kayshon Boutte had about 2 or 3 opportunities. Diggs had one where he couldn't connect. And he was just off. He missed the out route at the end of the third quarter to Kayshon Boutte on one of the last few attempts in the third quarter when Romo was like, you better get your passes in now, because once you flip that side of the field where the wind's dusting, it's over. And they literally didn't throw the football basically the entire fourth quarter. He was not sharp in this game. And we could point to various reasons as to why. But I'll tell you what he was sharp at, using his legs. And the one thing that I feel like people don't give Drake Maye enough credit for is the utilization of his legs. He is an athlete. And in today's NFL, if your quarterback can't run, you are missing out on a huge aspect of the quarterbacking position and how it can alter a football game. Drake Maye's legs were way more important than his arm was in tonight's game. And when I think of quarterbacks like Jared Goff, guys that aren't, necessarily like Matthew Stafford, what he's done this season is tremendous because he doesn't run. This version of Matthew Stafford that's 600 years old, he does not want to run. Sam Darnold can run. He does not want to run. And when you get guys that don't want to run, CJ Stroud, I talked about this last week, the week before with CJ Stroud. When you don't want to run, when you aren't a threat with your legs, you are a liability on the football field. And because Drake Maye is an athlete and is willing to use his legs to make plays, he was the difference in this game. His legs were massive in this football game. And so you could sit here and you can criticize Maye for being inaccurate, not having the best passing game statistically. The weather was definitely a factor, but before the weather was a factor, he was not sharp. But what you have to also make sure you mention is that Drake Maye and his athleticism and his legs helped him take over this game at certain points to help his team move on to Super Bowl 60. Shout out to Drake Maye for finding a way to get it done. You're not going to always have your fastball, but sometimes you got to find your way through the game. If you're a pitcher and you just don't have your best stuff, you got to find a way to pitch your way through 6 innings of baseball to give your team a chance. You're going to give up some hits. You may give up a couple of runs, but as long as you give your team a chance, when you turn that baseball over to the reliever that's coming in, you've done your job. They call it a quality start in Major League Baseball. If you can give your team a quality start when you don't have your best stuff, you did your job. Drake Maye did his job today. And his New England Patriots are moving on to Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara. That defense for the Patriots, what more can I say? It's what they've done all season long. It's what they've been in this postseason. They are the reason that the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. They stifled Justin Herbert and the Chargers in Wild Card Weekend. They destroyed C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans offense last week with the assist of the weather, of course, but Stroud was going to do that regardless. And then tonight, again, with the assist of the weather, but even before that, they've done a really good job of bottling up the run game and Jarrett Stidham. And I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if Stidham could have had the fairy tale ending with the trip to the Super Bowl with a win, because he was playing well, and then the weather happened, and then it just gave him no shot to throw the football, really. But the defense stood tall, made the stops when they had to, got the interception late with Gonzalez picking off Stidham to really close out the show. But as I mentioned, one of the biggest plays of the game, the 2 biggest plays of the game were turned in by this Patriots defense. First, the 4th down stop. That was a poor decision by Sean Payton. We'll get to that, but they had to go out and make the stop, and they did. And then the second biggest play was the forced fumble of the backwards pass, whatever you want to call it, from Jarrett Stidham, that they were able to recover. At that point, they had no offensive rhythm. They couldn't move the football. That basically gave them a chip shot range touchdown, and they were able to deposit it into the end zone. And so with Maye on the quarterback draw. So again, the defense was the catalyst for this team, surviving and advancing to the Super Bowl. And what a job by Mike Vrabel and his crew this season, coaching up this defense, a bunch of, parts that were either cast-offs from other places, guys that are young in nature, or, just this ragtag bunch, right? There's not one star player on that Patriots defense. The closest thing you'll get is Christian Gonzalez, and I don't think he's a star at this point of his career. He's very good, but he's not a star. I don't think there's one player that you look at and say, shit, they've got some guys that are hoopers, but there's not a star to be found on that defense. But they play collectively as a unit, and they've been phenomenal for the vast majority of this season. They've been lights out this postseason. They've been the best defense in the postseason, just off of sheer numbers. Now, again, the competition hasn't been that stiff, and the weather has also been a huge proponent in that. But still, they've gone out and they've done their job, and they're the reason that this Patriots team is moving on to the Super Bowl. Big shout out to that defense. And wow, what a journey, man. This was a Patriots team that was 4-13 last year. Can you believe that? 4-13 a year ago, off to Santa Clara to play in the Super Bowl a year later. Mike Vrabel, I felt like before this postseason run, was your head coach of the year. I know the postseason doesn't have any bearing on that award. It's a regular season award, I'm very aware, but the job that Mike Vrabel has done, I know that they did not get the number 1 seed in the AFC, but they had the same record as the team that had the number 1 seed. And again, you can miss me with the conversations about their schedule and how easy it was. It's the easiest schedule any team has ever had in the NFL since they started taking record and note of that statistic. You could talk about this postseason run. Anybody that's complaining and bitching about the postseason run in terms of its ease for the Patriots is a hater. They're just flat out. They just don't want to give them credit, because I always just put it in this context. Put yourself in that position as a fan of your favorite team. If this was the road that they traveled, would you want to hear anybody bitching and complaining about your path to the Super Bowl? You tell them, no, get the hell out of my face with that bullshit. And that's the way I see it. I don't give a shit if you don't like it. Cam Newton, kick rocks. He's still upset that the Patriots cut him loose. So he's still got an axe to grind. Who gives a shit how easy this path was? They still have to go out and make the plays to get there. You know how many teams fumbled opportunities just like this to get to the Super Bowl? I can think of so many. Tennessee Titans come to mind. Number 1 seed. All they had to do was just win. Joe Burrow was not good in that game, and their quarterback threw 4 interceptions. It's not easy to win in the postseason. I don't give a shit who your opponent is. So I really commend the Patriots for finding a way to get it done. It was not easy tonight. The weather was not cooperative, but they found a way to get it done, and they're moving on to Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara, where they await the winner of Seahawks-Rams. On the other side of this loss is Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, and it's so unfortunate for them, losing Bo Nix last week and then, having the weather be such a big factor. But even with all that said, this loss falls on the shoulders of their head coach, Sean Payton. He did them in this game. This is not a well-coached game by Payton. And this is not what you expect from a future Hall of Fame coach. But this loss is squarely on his shoulders. He made poor decisions in this game. And you have to start with the decision to go for it. Even in the moment, I can't think of one person, and I was talking to multiple people at the time while watching this game, and we all were in agreement. And I had this conversation with you guys earlier this season about how the NFL has drastically shifted from a point where you used to kick field goals to now field goals are taboo. Anytime you're within 2 yards of a first down on 4th down in the other team's territory, it feels like it's an automatic, we got to go for it. We got to be aggressive. It felt like this kind of football was ushered in maybe a decade ago by the Eagles and Doug Peterson. They were a little bit aggressive. They were kind of forward thinking at that time, but it wasn't to this degree. I think the Lions really were the ones that kind of lifted the seal completely off of this aggressive mindset when they went for it that year in 2023, didn't give a shit, threw caution to the wind, and they lost the NFC Championship game because of it. But that was their mantra. That was their ideology. And then the Commanders kind of took it a step forward, the following year, going forward on 4th down as aggressively as they did and converting. And you live by the sword, you die by that sword. And this wasn't, to me, you have to be able, I'm all for being aggressive. I got no issues with it whatsoever. But you also have to be able to, analytics is one thing. That's why I get pissed off when people start throwing around the word analytics, because it's a cop-out. You have to be able to understand game situation, right? I talk about game situation all the time, and the awareness of what is necessary at that current juncture. And I don't expect Sean Payton to lack game awareness and situation. And you can just think about it from this perspective. And this is what I thought was so easy. You got a backup quarterback. You got an outstanding defense. You're at home. I don't know if he had the information to know that the snow could be coming at some point during the game. And if that information was pertinent to him, then that's even more reason why he should have kicked the field goal. But let's just assume he didn't know that the weather was going to be as tumultuous as it ended up being in the second half. You got a backup quarterback. You have one of the best defenses in football. You got a struggling Patriots offense right now. Points are going to come at a premium. You know this in this game, but just off the strength, forget about the weather, off the strength of the two defenses that are playing one another, points are going to come at a premium. There was no, and you had all the momentum. You had all the momentum at this point of the game. Your backup quarterback is playing as well as you could have asked him to start this game, and your decision to go for it cost you this football game. You take the points. You go up 10-0. The Patriots at that point would have had to turn to Drake Maye, who was struggling mightily at that time. They might have even got away from the run game. They may have panicked in that situation, down double digits. They had not, and that's the thing. You were going to apply game pressure to a team that had not had game pressure applied to them this postseason for the most part. They have not been down 2 scores at any point in the postseason, have these Patriots. No point have they felt that kind of game pressure. And you had a chance to apply that at home. They have not been on the road in the postseason in an environment like this all postseason long. You had a chance to apply tremendous game pressure to a second-year quarterback who had never been here before, and you blew it by being over-aggressive with a backup quarterback. How dare you, Sean Payton? I can't wait for his explanation. I know it's going to be weak. It's going to be some bullshit-ass, cockamamie, weak-ass excuse that he's going to give. I would much more respect him if he just said, I blew that one. If I had it to do over again, I would have kicked the field goal. I should have taken the points there. I was too aggressive in the moment. I got caught up. I should have taken the points. He's not going to say that. He's going to talk about how it felt like we had the momentum, and if we could get the yards there, get a touchdown, I really felt like that'd be a big lead for us. He's going to say some dumb shit like that. 10 points would have been a big-ass lead and damn near insurmountable in what ultimately turned into a damn blizzard. But even without the weather at that point, just off the strength of your defense and playing with a backup quarterback, the play there was to kick the field goal. And I don't understand why teams don't understand it. Points, especially in the postseason, come at a premium, and you have a legit defense. I would get it if you had one of these ass clown defensive units and you know this shit ain't holding up. Okay, I get it. Yeah, go for it. Because it doesn't matter. The other team's going to score during the course of this game on your defense anyway. You have one of the best defenses in football, dude. Take the points. I think this thing has gotten out of control, and I've mentioned this to you. These coaches going for it on 4th down, and it's one thing to go for it when you're kind of in no man's land, right? You're at the 41-yard line, too close to punt, too far for a field goal attempt. I get that. 4th and 4. Yeah, go for it. But to take points off the board, to cast aside an opportunity to add to your lead for the chance, because even if they convert that, there's no guarantee they're going to score a touchdown. They may still have to settle for a field goal. You may turn it over 2 plays later. There's no guarantee. To not take the points there felt like coaching malpractice. It felt like coaching malpractice. I didn't expect that from Sean Payton. He knows better. That was the turning point in this game. That was the start of a sequence of unfortunate events that really defeated the Denver Broncos in this game. You start with that one. You didn't have the idiotic turnover, but that's a backup quarterback. You had to expect him to make a mistake at some point in the game, which is why you have to take points, because at some point, Jarrett Stidham is going to remind you why he's Jarrett Stidham and he's a backup. And I wanted to say this earlier. Jarrett Stidham isn't ass. Like, I thought they could win with Jarrett Stidham if they could keep him in a clean pocket. We never really got to see that materialize because the weather turned this game upside down. But you saw what he did on that second possession when he went deep, threw a beautiful dot to Marvin Mims. He's not a bum. Had the outbreaking route to Lil Jordan Humphrey on a critical 3rd down early in the game. He had on that drive where they ultimately decided to go for it. He had another throw to Ingram. Like, he's not a bum. I've always liked Jarrett Stidham, the NFL player, more than the Jarrett Stidham, the college player. Didn't like him at Baylor, didn't like him at Auburn. Actually liked Jarrett Stidham in the NFL. They could have won this game if they would have managed it better. But Stidham, you knew he's going to make a mistake at some point, and that was a killer. That fumble changed everything, because even with the Sean Payton blunder, you're still up 7-0, and the Patriots have shown no sign of life on offense. 0. You punt the football there, you make them drive the length of the field. They haven't proven that they could do it all game long. Their lone touchdown came off of a Jarrett Stidham turnover that led them to starting at the Broncos 18-yard line, maybe? Wherever it was, they were in the red zone. They started that drive in the red zone. You can't do that if you're Jarrett Stidham. You can't do that. And he had time to throw the ball away. You can't do that. But he's Jarrett Stidham. That's the game. Then the weather took over, and 10-7. That drive to start the second half that I led with, that's your ball game. And Vrabel didn't hesitate. Unlike Payton, who decided, I'm going to go for it. Vrabel didn't hesitate. They didn't pick up the first down on third down. He sent his field goal kick out there faster than your damn head could spin. You get knocked the F out like Mike Tyson. Sent that out there, and that ended up being a game winner. And it was funny. I was talking to the Kings, and me and Rio were texting back and forth, and I said, we were late stages of the third quarter. I think we might have even been early stages of the fourth. And I said, I bet you Sean Payton wishes he would have kicked that field goal. And Rio said, they're going to lose this game by 3 now. You know that, right? And damn sure enough, they lost the game 10-7. It's crazy. It's crazy. But when you make mistakes like that this time of year, this is why I love postseason football. I've told you that. I just love postseason sports in general. When you make mistakes, they become magnified. And you pay for said mistakes. So, anyway, let's get to the comment section. But before we do that, let's get a word from our sponsor, come back on the other side, and get y'all out of here because we've got another championship game to get to. And I actually want to be in front of my television when it starts.
Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips, play in fantasy leagues, and win real money on pick contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper.
Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. If you're not on Sleeper, you're missing out. They're blessing everybody right now. They just put out a couple more NFL boosts, another 30%, another 20% that you can use on this upcoming game if you haven't already used it. Use my promo code LTN to get you 100% match on your first deposit up to $100 if you haven't already done so. Big shout out to Sleeper once again for sponsoring this stream. Let's get to the comment section, then we will get out of here. Commander Cole, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, the rich get richer. Congrats, New England. It's crazy. Some organizations just get it, man. And you know, you want to call it luck, but it's not luck. You know, they transitioned from Tom Brady. They went to the playoffs the next year. They got blown out. They drafted Mac Jones. They went to the playoffs his first year. They got blown out. Mac Jones never got back. Then Belichick you could see the game kind of passed him by, and they needed a breath of fresh air. They gave it to their linebackers coach, promoted him, thought that he was the right man, realized very quickly in 1 year that Gerard Mayo was not the right man for the job, pivoted from him, took their lumps in the process, found Mike Vrabel, and the rest is history, right? Drafted Drake Maye, signed Mike Vrabel, who I loved as a head coach and felt like I thought Tennessee made a grave mistake by letting him go. And they still, I don't think, have recovered since. And they're back in the Super Bowl. Unbelievable. Who would have thought? As much as I love their offseason, as much as I love Drake Maye and Mike Vrabel, I'd be lying to you if I told you I thought we'd be having a conversation about the Patriots being in the Super Bowl. But that's how crazy this NFL season has been. No Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Josh Allen choked away another opportunity, and here we are. Patriots somehow are in the Super Bowl. So, unreal. Congratulations to the New England Patriots. 12 appearances in the big game. No other team in the NFL has more than 8. Wowzers. Lang Hughes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Lang Hughes writes, Payton's 4th down decision was ridiculous, LOL. It literally was the antithesis of what a future Super Bowl or a future Hall of Fame coach and a former Super Bowl winning coach would do. It's the antithesis of what you would expect from them. Yet I am at a loss that was the decision that he made. Even Tony Romo was like, what are you doing here, dude? Take the points. Like, are you serious right now? You got Jarrett Stidham, bro. You have a backup quarterback. Like, if it was Bo Nix, I might be more inclined to go, okay, yeah, that's Bo, man. You trust your guy. He's gotten you here. Bo can use his legs. Okay, nah. All right, Bo will make something happen. Go for it. Fine. Bro, it's a backup quarterback. You're playing well. Your defense is they're playing out of their gourd. The crowd is going nuts. You got all the momentum. Take the points, bro. I still am at a loss as to why he made that decision. I'm still shocked that was the decision that he made there. Tyrone Malone, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Tyrone Malone writes, remind me why Forbes was picked over Gonzalez. That's easy. Because Forbes took the football away. The Commanders needed turnovers. You forgot that quickly? They needed a guy that could take the football away. God, that group was so terrible at identifying talent and understanding. Like, they just clearly didn't get it. Situational football, right? I just talked about it with Sean Payton. Situational football. He struggled with it tonight, right? Not understanding. I thought Sean Payton wasted timeouts in this game. It's not Sean Payton-like. By the time they got to the end of the game, they had 1 timeout left. I thought he took a bad timeout to start the second half, early on. Then they took a timeout at the end of the Patriots' final drive prior to the one where Drake Maye got their penultimate drive, the second to last one. He took a timeout at the end because the clock was running. Just let that shit run. Your timeouts are more important than that 30 seconds that's going to peel off that clock, because this is your last possession any damn way. So either you're going to get it done here. If you have to punt, or as we saw, Jarrett Stidham through the interception, at least you had 2 timeouts and a 2-minute warning. You would have been able to get the football back with plenty of time to go down and get the field goal. But by you calling that last timeout, saving yourself the 30 seconds, but ultimately doing yourself in, you didn't know that Stidham was going to throw that interception. But still, I just thought he didn't really manage the game well. And cost him a chance to take his team to the Super Bowl. J-Does 2024, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, we get to watch Gonzalez and maybe Forbes playing a bowl. Meanwhile, Washington can't figure out what a defense even is. Great point. The 2 guys that we were supposed to be deciding between, which didn't seem like a real decision, Gonzalez seemed like the guy that they should have taken. And then the guy they ultimately took and then mismanaged him, basically tore his confidence down to the ground and never attempted to build it back up. Both guys could end up playing against one another in the Super Bowl. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, we still don't have, I think Trey Amos might be a corner, but technically we still don't have a corner. But I am a big Trey Amos fan. So we'll see what happens. Juan Gotti talked sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Juan writes, I wish 5 had this playoff bracket instead of the gauntlet last year. No credit taken away from Maye, but 5 NFC Championship run was insane. We'll be back. Yeah, like I said, you don't get to make the schedule. You don't get to set the bracket up. Really proud of what Jaden was able to do last year, but he wasn't able to get us to the Super Bowl, right? And again, thought he played his ass off in the NFC Championship game last year. He just didn't have any help. Maye was able to get there. Maye was able to get there. We'll see if he can win it, right? We know that it's incredibly hard to get to this point. There's no guarantees that you ever get back. We're still having Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen conversations about winning in the postseason. Allen's only been to one AFC Championship game, never been back. Jackson's only been to one AFC Championship game. And Burrow made it to the Super Bowl, and he hasn't been back to the playoffs since. It's hard in this league. You don't take it for granted, and you just don't assume your guy's going to be back. You got to make the most of this situation if you're Drake Maye. He's set up for a run. He's set up to be one of the best quarterbacks on one of the better rosters in the AFC, and they play in a really weak division. The Dolphins stink, the Jets stink, and the Bills are going through a little bit of a transitional period here. So he plays in a very favorable situation, but he's got a opportunity right in front of him. See if he can take advantage of it. But you can't get me to demean his run to the Super Bowl because he just played the cards he was dealt. And he played them in a way that allowed him to win. And I can't do nothing but I can't knock the hustle. Can't do nothing but give him congratulations. So hopefully you're right about 5. I feel like he's going to be back. But as I just said, shit ain't no guarantee. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Derek B, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, DCs are racist versus Maye. They never spy him. He kills them with his legs every game all season long. I was so right. Yes, you were about Mike Vrabel. AP never interviewed. Me and you both felt like Vrabel was a hell of a coach. You were way higher on him than I was, but I was always a Mike Vrabel fan. Tennessee Titans fans couldn't stand Vrabel, thought he was, ultra conservative. And I was like, look, man, that's why I always like Green Bay Packers fans are the same way right now with their head coach. I'm like, you really don't understand how hard it is to find a good NFL head coach. And they had one, and now they're going through this shit now where they got nothing and nobody wants their job, and they're in head coach hell are the Titans. I hope they're happy, right? Hope they made their bed, now they have to lie in it. And I told Packers fans, you better not move on from Matt LaFleur because he's a hell of a coach. And, fans, we love to do this. We love to, be jaded by the process. We love to fall into the trap of, this guy's not getting it done. We got to move on from him. Sometimes patience is a virtue. And sometimes you just need to stand still as a fan. And it's hard to just stand still. Don't move. Don't do nothing. Just relax. It'll all blow over. But fans want immediate results. And if you don't get it, this guy, get him out of here. Vrabel is a good coach. And I thought they dropped the ball by not even exploring him as an option. I thought they dropped the ball as well. But you, to your point, you were way, way more aggressively, outwardly aggressively saying they are not doing the right thing by not interviewing Mike Vrabel. They are absolutely dropping the ball here. And first year, straight to the Super Bowl. Straight to the Super Bowl. And as far as coordinators being racist against Drake Maye, I just think you fall into the trap of the Patriots don't have a receiver that scares you. So you just think, I can play man coverage against them. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's them disrespecting Drake Maye. Because you don't want to, if you don't have to, you don't want to take a guy out of coverage to spy. Because either you're going to have to rush one less guy or you have to take somebody out of coverage if you're going to use a QB spy. Nobody wants to do that. So while Maye's legs can be dynamic, he's not that damn dynamic. He's not Lamar Jackson or anything like that. So you don't want to dedicate a rusher to him. You're playing man coverage, your back is turned, and it seems like he gets you every time. Because, again, are you afraid of Mac Hollins? Is he going to separate? Are you afraid of Kayshon Boutte? Are you afraid of Stephon Diggs? None of these guys move the needle in terms of separation, especially Diggs at this point of his career. So you can just play man coverage. And that's what they see a lot of. And because of it, Maye gets to run. And it's been wildly successful. Wildly successful. You're not wrong. They're not racist. It's just the coverage that they get, and he seems to be able to take advantage of it. So JP, my guy, John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, I'll never forgive Rivera for passing on Gonzalez. There were a lot of mistakes that group made when they were here. I don't know if there's a bigger one than that. Because even though there were other mistakes made, at least that was one that if he'd have made the right decision, that guy would still be in Washington right now helping us. Instead, he pretty much left us a big F you, a middle finger. So, yeah, that was a pretty devastating one there. But, what's done is done. You can't change what happened and can't keep crying over spilt milk. So, we just got to hope this group does a better job of acquiring talent, developing said talent, and putting them in positions to succeed. So, that is going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Championship Sunday. AFC Championship game. Patriots are moving on to Super Bowl 60, 10-7 victory over the Denver Broncos. The weather was a massive factor in this game, but mistakes were made by the Denver Broncos that cost them an opportunity to go to the game's biggest game. And again, like I said, in the postseason, you pay for those types of mistakes. Everything is magnified. Everything is amplified. Sean Payton made a bad decision. Jarrett Stidham had a terrible turnover, 2 of them. But the first one was the death blow, it felt like. And the Patriots made just enough plays. And they're moving on. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys enjoy the second half of Championship Sunday. Rams, Seahawks, for the right to go to Super Bowl 60 and take on these Patriots. We'll be back after that game has met its conclusion to wrap it up and preview Super Bowl 60. I'll see you guys on the other side. Have a good one. Peace.